What's up guys, I'm Josh and I lift things, and I'm here to talk about cutting, Diet 101. I'm going to explain what cutting is, why you should do it, how it works, and then in the end I'll give some useful cutting tips, so make sure you stick around to the end to see that. Disclaimer, if you're young, like younger than 15 or 16, I do not recommend counting calories and doing a formal cut. This is for a multitude of reasons, like I don't want you to stunt your growth by going too deep into a caloric deficit, and also I don't think that young people should have that type of potentially unhealthy relationship with food. If you're younger and you need to lose weight, just focus on healthy lifestyle factors, going outside more, portion control, better food choices, maybe playing with your friends or joining a sport, just going on walks, drinking more water. Unironically, eat your vegetables, kids. If you make these changes, that'll do more than enough for weight loss. Disclaimer 2. These influencers that you see that are shredded year round are lying to you. Feel free to watch my video on why influencers suck, but being that low of a body fat percentage year round is terrible for you. These guys diet for weeks, they then take an edited photo with down lighting, a great camera, they do it when they have a pump, and then they try to pretend that this is how they always look. It isn't healthy, especially hormonally, to look like that year round. That being said, if you're an adult, here's a too long didn't watch. Find your TDEE, watch my video on that, and subtract 250 to 500 calories from that number in order to lose roughly half a pound to 1 pound of weight a week. Look at this dude. So what is cutting? Cutting is simply eating less calories than what you burn a day. This is known as a caloric deficit. This results in weight loss, and if all things are done appropriately, most of that weight loss will be fat rather than muscle. I'm going to refer to an acronym called PSYCHO throughout the rest of this video, which stands for calories in, calories out. That's really a simple law of thermodynamics. Shout out Newton. If you put less into your body than what you use, you will lose weight. Calories in versus calories out. People often want to say something along the lines of, but what about metabolic disorders? What about hypothyroidism, PCOS, maybe a tumor on a certain gland? At the end of the day, the changes in your metabolism from these are actually pretty small. Sure, these conditions do make sticking to caloric deficits harder, but still, calories in versus calories out. I'd like to get it out of the way now. No diet is perfect. A suboptimal diet that you can stick to for long periods of time will forever outperform the most optimal diet that you only can stick to for a couple of weeks. So do not let perfection be the enemy of good here. So initially when you cut, especially depending on what your diet looked like before said cut, you're going to lose a lot of weight immediately. This weight is not fat, so don't get it twisted. It's mostly water. If you were eating a lot of carbs in your prior diet, you were probably going to be retaining a whole lot of water. I mean, think about it. Carbs is short for carbohydrates. Carbohydrates. There's water, carbohydrates. A lot of people calculate their cutting calories and then they lose so much weight in the beginning. They think they are either magic or they miscalculated. That isn't the case. You're just losing water. Believe me, you did not shed 10 pounds of fat your first week of dieting. So why would you even want to cut in the first place? Well, if you recently came out of a bulk, you can watch my video on that, then you probably gained a little bit of fat and you want to strip that off in order to show your newfound muscle. Or maybe you were even overweight to start with, in which case, perfect. If you're extremely overweight, and especially if you're a beginner in the gym, this is the one time in your life you'll actively be able to put on muscle while losing fat. The only other people that can do this are people that are on performance enhancing drugs. For anyone else, it's virtually impossible to do both at the same time. But just like how bulking is a double-edged sword, because you'll put on fat along with muscle, cutting also has its disadvantages. When you cut, you'll lose fat, but you'll also lose muscle. This is inevitable, and there's things you can do to stop or slow down the breakdown of muscle, but it's gonna happen. So how would you limit this muscle wasting? Well, first off, a high protein diet. A lot of people overestimate how much protein they actually need to be eating, which is neither helpful for your wallet nor the environment. But when cutting, it's especially important to keep your protein levels high. 1, it's satiating, so it'll leave you full longer, making it easier to not overeat. 2, meat's really micronutrient dense, especially when talking about organ meat or red meat in general. And 3, more protein will help your body from going catabolic, which just means the breakdown of muscle, literally the opposite of anabolic. Another thing you can do is just not to diet too much. Just like how a dirty bulk has its issues, so does a crash diet. Hunger and metabolism are primarily derived from 2 hormones, leptin and ghrelin. I'm not going to get too into it. If anything, I'll make another video explaining these at some point. But when you crash diet, these hormones don't really have a chance to catch up. Meaning, when you end the crash diet, you'll often rebound in weight significantly, especially if you didn't fix any of your lifestyle habits. You'll lose more muscle, you'll become weaker in the gym, you'll have a harder time hitting your micronutrient goals, which in turn can lead to injuries, which again keep you further away from the gym. It's just not a good way to go about things. Another way to avoid muscle wasting is to continue training. So many people think that when I start a cut, I have to change my routine, or I'm bulking, so I'm going for a mass gainer routine. That's not really a thing. Don't fix what isn't broke. Sure, on a long enough time frame, your cut will eventually start digging into your recovery or your strength, but wait until that happens to change something, and when that does happen, you often only have to alter a couple of the training variables. Watch my video on that. Maybe lower the weight a little bit, maybe drop assistance exercises a little bit. You'll have to play it by ear, but don't go into it thinking I have to change everything up just because I'm on a new caloric amount. And again, it's important to mention, being at a low body fat percentage is terrible for health, particularly for testosterone and estrogen. Most males feel best anywhere from like a 12 to 15% body fat, and coincidentally, this is pretty much right when you start to see the initial signs of abs. If you want to go lower, go for it. Just keep in mind it's not that sustainable. If you have a photo shoot or something like that coming up, feel free to go as low as you want, but if you're that advanced, you're probably not watching this video in the first place. So when should you decide to cut? Simply when you're unhappy with your body composition. If you think you're too fat or you hit your weight goal, go for the cut. I will throw in a caveat here though. Too many people bulk for too little and then cut too soon. So they'll spend a month and they will barely put on any muscle and instead just put on a decent amount of fat, and then they'll cut, which is a harder time to build muscle, and so they're kind of just left right back where they started. Commit to one or the other. Another thing to bring up is start your cut slower than you think you need to. If your TDEE is like 3,200 calories, so many people just drop right to 2,000 to get as much weight off as possible. I highly recommend dropping to just like 3,000 or so for that example, maybe 2,800. And then when your body adapts to that calorie amount and stops losing weight off of it, you then drop the calories some more. When you do it in tiny steps like this, one, it's easier mentally to adjust to the new caloric deficit, but also you'll retain as much muscle as possible in doing so. Each time you drop, you may have to start implementing some more stuff. Cardio, fat burners, whatever, but save those for when you're getting really down in the body fat percentage. Now finally, so many people want to bring up different types of restrictive diets, whether it's time restriction like intermittent fasting or macro restriction like keto or low fat. At the end of the day, when calories are accounted for, all these diets perform the same. Sure, there's some other benefits to some like autophagy, insulin sensitivity, or other stuff like that, but as far as weight loss is concerned, when calories are equal, they all have the same results. Calories in versus calories out. And I talked about the benefits of some of these diets. There's also downsides to some of these diets, such as on keto, you're almost definitely going to have worse performance in the gym, at least for a couple months. Do whatever you need to do to stick to a diet and one that excites you and keeps you enjoyed. But then don't go online and try to pretend that your way is the only possible way to lose weight. So guys, you know what cutting is, you know how to do it, why you would do it, yada, yada, yada. Let me give you some cutting tips. Water, especially ice cold water, will blunt your appetite. Stimulants, like caffeine, will stave off hunger. You can employ some fat burners like the classic ECA stack, but use sparingly and watch your heart, and I recommend saving this for later in your cut. Cardio isn't that great for weight loss, especially in the beginning stages. Would you rather run a couple miles or eat one less cheeseburger? Chew gum. This helps you not be as hungry. Start smoking cigarettes. Just kidding. Start doing heroin. Not kidding. Restrictive diets like keto or intermittent fasting, when controlled for calories, do not perform any better than any other diet. Chew slower. Besides this aiding in digestion, chewing longer means eating slower, which means you'll feel full faster. Buy a digital food scale and use it well, and then track your foods using an app like Chronometer. Get 0 or low calorie sauces. Dieting sucks if you make stuff tasteless, so use this. Weigh your sauces. To piggyback off the last two tips, people do not realize how many calories are in your sauces. Weigh the entire bottle before using it, pour it on your shit, weigh the bottle again, and the difference in weight is how much you put on your food. Eat more fibrous veggies. They fill you up, are extremely micronutrient dense, and are very low in calories. Cut out all liquid calories. Milk, soda, juice. The most optimal diet that you can stick to for only a few weeks is far worse than an okay diet that you can stick to for the long term. Find replacement foods you can actually enjoy. For instance, the PB2 powder is an alternative to peanut butter. It actually tastes great. And guys, that's the video. If you made it this far, like the vid, subscribe, maybe share to a buddy who needs to cut. If I forgot something, please leave a comment below. It really helps out the channel. If you like this style of content, you can follow all of these social medias and join my Discord. The links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.